City Council of Norristown, ICN, is a consortium of organizations, individuals, and school districts concerned with improving the quality of life and delivery of human services within the greater Central Montgomery County area. We bring people together in the region to promote collaboration and cooperation among social service organizations, community groups, local government, and residents. Through this show, ICN presents Making Connections. We will consider a variety of topics that will identify community resources and needs, and we'll discuss quality of life issues. We'll talk about strategies for strengthening our families, healthy lifestyle choices, and volunteer options. We hope that you find our show informative and helpful.
In this ICN Connections show, we'll focus on our community's efforts to promote safe schools in a safe community. You know, we need to acknowledge that there is violence in our community. People are involved in fights, and actually weapons have been used. People have been hurt and even killed. But we're not isolated. This kind of activity is taking place everywhere, in rural communities, in urban communities, suburban communities. And we're not without hope. We know that the parents in our community, citizens in our community, community-based organizations, the police, we're all interested in making sure that we have a safe community. Over the last couple years, the school district has a grant, Safe Schools, Healthy Students grant, that includes both prevention and intervention services around promoting safety in our schools and in our community. So today we're going to talk with some of the school resource officers, the director of the Safe Schools, Healthy Students program, and learn a little bit more about what's going on to make this a safe community. So I'd like to introduce Jim Haig, who's the Safe Schools, Healthy Students director, Brian Kozera, who's an officer with the Norristown Police, and he's based at Eisenhower Middle School, and Carl Fisher, who's an officer with East Norriton Police and based in East Norriton Middle School. Yep. So welcome to all of you. And Jim, let's start with you and tell us a little bit about Safe Schools, Healthy Students, the work that's come about as a result of the grant.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Karen, thanks for the opportunity for Safe Schools, Healthy Students staff to be represented on the program, Connections program. We are really fortunate in the district that we have highly skilled police officers and social service staff as part of this project. Violence prevention is a critical issue, as you said, in all schools, particularly in Norristown Area School District. And just to break it down very briefly, our school resource officers focus on bullying prevention, providing conflict resolution process for students who maybe get into fights and other physical altercations, internet safety, and they also do a lot of other things that they'll describe in detail. Yeah. Our counseling staff, again, highly skilled counselors from community social service agencies, and what they focus on is providing students with viable anger management skills and decision-making skills. The other thing that's really important to point out going forward is that with some of the issues that we're trying to address within the community and, of course, within the district, it's really critical that we engage community partners. We need our parents to be positive role models for their kids, and we need community organizations to really look at providing productive alternative activities for young people in the community. I know it's a cliche at this point, but it really does take a village to raise a child. So we're all in this together.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. I know that faith-based organizations, community-based organizations, recreation programs, all kinds of groups, parent clubs, and so on. We all need to work together, and it does make a difference. That's great, thanks. Well then, let's hear a little bit about the work that you're doing as school resource officers, maybe describe something about your day and some of the activities that you do. Would you like to get started, Brian?
Sure, and just to key a little bit off what Jim was talking about there, one of the most important things I think is that with the police officers getting the opportunity to work in the schools, it's increased communication.
I would guess.
I think that, you know, we're connected to so many different agencies and all of the social service agencies that are coming together as part of this grant. There's a lot of talking, there's a lot of sitting, and there's a lot of communication. So information is finally getting past a lot of those barriers. So the problems that are happening at home or on the street, it's getting communicated back and through and getting to the right people. So I think that's been very helpful in addressing a lot of the problems or issues.
Right.
So first and foremost, I think that's one of the greatest assets of having the opportunity to go into the schools.
I think that's important too, and you have also an opportunity to share with other officers kind of the climate, what's going on, what's happening in the school that then they might see in the community, and in turn they can let you know what's happening in the community. It even presents, I would think, a different face about the police for students, having you in the building.
I mean, the connection though between all of us, I mean, with Glenn Mills, with the academy, with juvenile probation, we have monthly meetings, so every bit of information throughout our school is getting passed around.
Right.
So I may have a kid that leaves my building and goes to Eisenhower. Now I fill him on everything about this student, or he's on juvenile probation and things are happening, but they haven't done a site
Right.
visit to get that information. I mean, we're able to plug them in and let them know what's going on the day after it happens, instead of,
Right.
in a week or something like that. So the spreading of information in regards to the students of our Norristown area school district, I think has gone through the roof.
Okay, great.
I think along those lines too, if there is a problem, let's say that there was a problem in the street, let's say there was a couple people having a hard time last night, and maybe somebody from Glen Mills was dropping the kid off, and he's calling me up and saying, hey, listen, when he gets to school tomorrow, you might want to talk to him and say, listen, I heard that you had a rough night last night, some kids showed up at your house, you want to talk about it, let's try and figure it out. Maybe we're able to pull those kids in, we're able to do a peer mediation, we're able to break it down and prevent that next violent
Right.
fight.
Exactly.
And so that's the type of communication. That's the way that it is really, we're very aggressive with, communicating, especially critical information if there's going to be, that fight or there's going to be any kind of problems.
But your efforts are not so much punitive as a first as a teachable moment. Really being able to talk with kids and strategize, how do we solve this? How do we reduce this kind of activity?
It's unfortunate to think that some of our kids don't know how to handle a problem outside of fighting. So to actually pull them aside, sit them down and explain like this is how you talk a problem out, this is how you work something out is huge. And then on the other end of it, I mean, they may think we're psychics and stuff like that, but we also educate them on how we solve crime and how we put them, in this, let's say there's a fight in Norristown Borough, Officer Kazera will call me and say, this is what's going on, these are the kids who we believe it to be, can you talk to your kids? And sure enough, the kids believe that like on Friday when they get dropped off from the school bus that their identities disappear and they can do whatever they want, and on Monday they start fresh again. But we explain to them that's not how it works, that we do have a school database with all their information and that we can link things that happen outside of school back to them. So I think explaining how we really investigate stuff has kind of helped to maybe cut back on some of the things they do outside the building, because they know that it's not going to go unfounded, that it will be traced back to them. And I think that's helped to cut a lot of things back.
The idea of having police officers in a school setting sometimes is kind of a strange concept, and you alluded to that, Karen, in that our school resource officers, Brian and Carl, and our other two officers, there is a law enforcement capacity that they fill, but the really just as important is that they're there as advisors, mentors, and role models for young people, so that the young people in our district can really look at the officers as in a different light, and particularly in Norristown, that is kind of a unique thing that we have in place, and we've been excited about this for 2 years.